Again, it's my pleasure to welcome everyone to this preview of the upcoming legislative session. It's good to see all the colleagues that usually are in Tallahassee down here back home. I want to take a moment to recognize all the elected officials in the audience. If you would all please stand to be recognized. You all know who you are. See them? We want to thank you all for your continued public service to our community. Today, our sponsor for today's event is Charter Communications, and we appreciate their ongoing support. And I'd like to invite Leah Brown to come up to the podium to say a few words.
Thank you, Casey. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Casey mentioned, my name is Leah Brown. I am the Director of Government and Community for Charter Communications, formerly Bright House Networks. In May of 2016, Bright House Networks, Charter Communications, and Time Warner Cable joined forces to create the new service provider, Spectrum, by Charter Communications. Spectrum is committed to bringing the most innovative products, the fastest internet speeds, an open internet, and superior customer service to over 25 million customers in 41 states. Additionally, much like Bright House Networks, Charter is dedicated and committed to the local community. We are focused on the mission of making homes safer and healthier with our Spectrum Housing Assist program, and by expanding broadband access to our low-income families and seniors through our Spectrum Internet Assist program. In the coming months, we'll be working hard to promote these opportunities to our families, our schools, our communities, and our customers. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce my colleagues. Iris Gonzalez, Iris Wave. Iris is our senior manager and will be overseeing government affairs efforts in Manatee County, Pasco, and Pinellas. And also Sharon Smoley. Sharon is our state director, new to the organization, and will be overseeing efforts throughout Florida. And in my new role, I will be overseeing and coordinating government and community efforts in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Please connect with Iris or Sharon should you have any customer needs, inquiries, sponsorship inquiries, and make sure to stop by, say hello, and give them a good old Manatee County welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure working with the staff and the members of the Manatee Chamber over the past decade with Bright House Networks. And we are thrilled to continue that support with Charter Communications. I always appreciate our delegation's candid insight and perspective. This is such an important update for Manatee County, and we are thrilled to be a part of it. Thank you to the Manatee Chamber for this opportunity, and thank you to our delegation. Gentlemen, old friends, and new ones, we appreciate what you do each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Get that correct. Again, I just want to remind everyone that METV is taping today, and at each table you will see the Chamber Legislative State Priorities should be in the middle of the table. There should be several copies. I want to thank everyone on the Chamber Legislative Committee for working through the hot summer and hurricane squalls and everything to get this together, and we're very proud of this. And as you can see this year, for I think the first time in a long time, it's on one page, on one side of one page. So very excited about that. But yeah, you guys are just knocking these things down. Next year we'll be down to a Post-it note, so that's good. All right. Now I want to go ahead and introduce our state legislative delegation. We're going to have each representative and senator talk for a few minutes about their priorities for this legislative session, and then we'll follow that up with a Q&A after that. So without further ado, Senator Bill Galvano.
Thank you. Thank you, Casey. Good morning. It's great to see so many of my friends. It's great to be back in Manatee County instead of Tallahassee and to share breakfast with you. Thank you, Charter, for sponsoring this. Look forward to our work together, and thank you for being so supportive of our caucus in Tallahassee, and we appreciate the work that you do. Before I go any further, I want to introduce someone who's very important, probably when it comes to me, the most effective lobbyist that exists. Ladies and gentlemen, my mother, Betty Galvano. believe me, I get those calls. It's like, hey, Bill, what's this I'm reading? What are the challenges of being a legislator? So let me tell you a little bit about the Senate right now, because we actually had some big changes over the last election cycle. Most of you will recall that we had redistricting, and this was a challenge that went on for quite some time, several years actually, and we ended up litigating it. It went through the Supreme Court, the trial court level. Long story short, we had 40 open seats in the Senate. 40 open seats because they had changed in one way or another, and we had a big cycle to deal with those 40 open seats. Well, after a lot of work and north of $20 million, we returned to the Senate with 25 Republican members, a new president, Joe Negron, 15 Democratic members, a new minority leader, Oscar Brainin, and really just a great, solid group of people. I'm really excited about, especially in my caucus, the talent and the diversity that is represented in that caucus and what we can accomplish together. And so it's a new day in the Florida Senate, and I'm really optimistic. I'm also very optimistic about this delegation. You've got some real talented members here, some who are not here, like Senator Stubbe, Alex Miller. I think you all invited the Sarasota delegation as well. But they have really distinguished themselves very rapidly and are working with us, and we're working together to do what you expect us to do, and that's the work of the people. From a policy standpoint, and I'll focus a little bit on where I've been, I was majority leader, as you know, and I am now chairman of Education Appropriations. And so as chairman of Education Appropriations, we're taking some very aggressive steps towards making our higher universities preeminent throughout the country. And so you can watch as we really step that up in terms of financial support, but more importantly, looking at ways to make the system much more effective and to attract much greater talent. For example, we will be giving full rides to national merit scholars who come to the state of Florida to study here. We have put additional dollars into faculty recruitment to make sure that we are getting the absolute best for our university system. And then we have, again, committed to preeminence funding. And what I mean by this is funding that we will give to our flagship universities and our emerging universities so that they can take the steps necessary to be that destination university worldwide, frankly. With regard to marijuana, I'll go right from education to marijuana. I mean, we were talking about campus, right? Yeah, oh yeah, FSU, right? My son's actually going to start at FSU next year, and so Jim's very pleased about that since I was a Gator. Yeah, I know, right? But anyway, this is a big issue too, and it ties into the whole university system, because it's my belief that we are getting a little too far down the road a little too quickly without the proper research that is necessary. It is not a Schedule II, so we haven't had a lot of research from the federal government. And so one of the initiatives that I want to see included in our higher education package is the idea that we have facilities that do real research on the impacts of marijuana from a health standpoint, and so that we can know going forward what steps to take and to be measured in our approach. And so that's something that also ties into the federal government. And with the new administration, we have some things that we have to figure out. For example, will it become a Schedule II? How is the administration going to address this issue? And really, across the board, there are so many issues that are contingent now upon the feds. For example, Medicaid funding. There's been some discussion that perhaps we'll get a block grant from the federal government, which may require us to revisit that whole issue. And so we're going to watch as these things unfold at the national level. You all may have read recently that we passed a major gaming bill out of regulated industries in the Senate. And just to give you a backdrop on that real briefly, this is not a bill that just came up or something that we decided to do. We have been in litigation for some time now. We have 2 pending court actions, one at a federal action, we have a state action, all of which impact dollars to the state of Florida. And I'm talking about significant dollars, dollars that go to education, dollars that go to health care, dollars that build roadways. And we have to get it straight. And we have to work out this entire plan, not just with the legislature and the governor, but with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. And so it is a balance, and we're working hard at that. And so the approach I took was to bring it all together. I didn't want death by 1,000 cuts with an amendment here on this issue, another amendment there. I brought a package out, a package that frankly would gross $450 million to the state of Florida. And what I mean by gross is some of that we're already getting. The net increase to our budget would be $375 million. And that's significant money when you talk about the challenges that we have budget-wise going forward. And so stay tuned as that unfolds over the next several months. And finally, I'll just mention, I know there's so much more, and we're going to have some Q&A, but we're also going back, or I'm going back with my team, to the drawing board on contamination notice. As you all recall, the issues that we had in the community of Tallahassee some time ago, where a community, whole community was drinking contaminated water, and the DEP knew about it, but yet they didn't know about it. And so we were able, based on that tragic situation, to create, for the first time, a requirement for notice to the DEP and to the community. And so now we're revisiting it because we continue to have incidents that require our attention. And so we have a bill out has it been filed, Kathy? And by the way, I want to recognize Kathy Gailey and Macy Smith, the best. They really are. Because at the end of the day, a lot of what we do in Tallahassee is esoteric to your everyday lives. It's the constituent service that makes the big difference. And so you all are great. Appreciate that. But this bill will require if someone spills or if there's a incident, 24 hours notice to the DEP, and then the DEP will notice within 24 hours to the community, so that we are informed going forward and we don't have situations where people are endangering their lives without knowledge of it. So that's just a few of the things that I'm working on in addition to the budget and everything else. And I enjoy being here. I look forward to your questions, and thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Bill. We do have great partners in the Senate, and it's good for us and good for our community because we all work well together. We respect and appreciate and understand each other. So thanks for your leadership. And you know, he didn't say it, but you know our senator is going to be president of the Senate in 2 years. So that could not be better for Manatee County. Just a little thank you as well, Chamber, for doing this every year, and the great crowd. This is awesome to see this many people that care about what's going on in our community. So thank you for doing that. Leah and Charter, our friends at Charter, thank you, as Bill said, for sponsoring this. We appreciate it. And by the way, Mrs. Galvano knows the people in the House as well. We hear from her also. And we're happy to. We're happy to. The House is kind of like the Senate. We've had a lot of changes this past year. We had like 45, I think, new members. There's a lot of our colleagues that ran for the Senate, a lot ran for Congress, other seats being open and people making changes. Some went to local offices, so we had a lot of activity in our election cycle. So we have a fair number of new people as well. And it's hard to believe that here I stand before you, and this is my last term that we just started. So I guess that would make me the senior member. Probably the oldest as well at this table, but in the House delegation, and it's kind of weird because it just seems like yesterday when I stood up here all nervous and worried about what I was going to say in front of you for my first time. So, but that's the process, and that's great because beyond me there'll be some new blood coming in that'll pick up the torch, hopefully, that we've started and carry on good work. Let me tell you a little bit about what I see going on in the House and what I'm doing this year, and then some of the issues that I think we'll be facing that we'll be working with our partners across the rotunda on. As I think you remember, last year I was majority whip, or for the past 2 years I was majority whip, so I was in the majority office and did a lot of things that were good for the process, for our caucus, and for policy that we cared about. And that was a big and fun assignment. But this year I was asked to be chairman of Ways and Means, which is another nice assignment, and that's pretty much all the taxes that come in. So anything that we collect and any way, shape, or form in the state. It comes through Ways and Means, and then the appropriation side is the group that figures out how to spend your tax dollars wisely and judiciously. So this year, you probably heard and probably read a little bit about the budget year is probably not going to be quite as rosy as it's been, and next year, the following this year, it could be even a little bit more bleak. So we're trying to figure out in our policy area what we can do still to lower taxes and make it easier on individuals and businesses to make it work for themselves in our community. So we will be working on a tax package, and I am optimistic that we'll have a fairly good tax package that includes a lot of things that are important to you. We're starting to put the framework together on that now, but I know one of the big issues that we've worked on year in and year out, and I hope this year we can get some traction on, it's a commercial rent tax, the sales tax on the commercial leases. So that's on the top of my priority list, and one that I hope we can at least begin to get kind of whittled down. It's going to take a while, and I think you've heard us say before, that's $1.7 billion in revenue to the state. So that's a huge number that unfortunately you just can't clip all at once, but hopefully if we can get it started, and then those beyond us can continue that momentum. You know, when I was asked to be the Ways and Means Chairman by the Speaker, I started studying it because I hadn't even been on that committee before. I'd worked with them on the floor and in other ways, but I started looking through the tax handbook and what we tax and the things in Florida. And frankly, there's a lot of things that we tax that I'm like, why are we doing this? And why is this a tax? Why is that a tax? Unfortunately, it's all revenue and it's all numbers. And with an $82 billion budget, we still have to be able to fund the things that we're supposed to be able to fund as government. That said, we're looking closely, I know the Senate will as well, at where we can reduce spending and where we can shave off costs that government incurs that maybe we don't necessarily need to do. So that'll give us some freedom to be able to hopefully open up some more avenues of tax cuts that are appropriate. A couple other things that I'm going to be involved in this year as well, and one is I think very important to the business community, and that's the work comp issue. You know, we're facing a Supreme Court decision, and with all due respect to my friends here in the 12th Circuit, which I think are the best circuit in the state of Florida, and this is no reflection on them, we feel the Supreme Court overreached in their decision on this work comp law that they acted on last year. Over the past 13 years, I think you know, businesses have enjoyed 13 years of reduced premiums. It's about 60% of the cost of what workman's comp was 13 or so years ago. You know, as that's what I do for a living. I mean, I saw before 2003, businesses were finding hard to get coverage, very high cost. Carriers were fleeing the state. And if we don't do something, you know, we're fearful that that could happen again. So we're going to be very strong and very hard working on that. The Speaker asked me if I would partner with Chairman Burgess, who's Chairman of Insurance and Banking, and work on some solutions. So we're getting information from all sides and trying to put together a good policy plan that we can hopefully pass through the House, and the Senate will partner with us in their ideas and our ideas and get something substantive done there that will continue to keep the pressure on rising rates down for our good business friends. Because, you know, without business thriving and surviving in our great state, not a lot else matters. I mean, everybody wants a good job, everybody wants to be able to make a living, and without our small to medium and large businesses in Florida, that makes it really tough. So we're on that, and we're going to stay on that until we come up with something I think that's appropriate, and hopefully we'll be able to get that done. The other issue that I'm working on with a team is the opioid issue, and that's a critical problem for our state. And unfortunately, Manatee, Sarasota County, we enjoy the distinction of being one of the hardest hit with that crisis. You know, my friends from the hospital here, they see it every day, overdose after overdose after overdose coming in. Fortunately, some are able to be revived. Unfortunately, others aren't. Some of the same folks come back in an additional time that day or that week, you know, after they've revived them and gotten them back kind of on their feet. But it's a bigger problem than just that. I mean, it's just systemic almost through through our society. So working with the Florida Sheriff's Association and statewide prosecutor for drug crimes and others, we put together a bill that I think will help. It's not going to solve the problem, but it strengthens penalties for the dealers and the traffickers. It schedules some of these substances at a higher schedule rate, Schedule 1, where it allows penalties to apply more appropriately. But that's not going to fix the problem. We've got to have education. We've got to have just a variety of things, and our communities have to be engaged, because at the end of the day, it really does affect all of us. It's not just a law enforcement problem, or it's not just a medical care problem. It's a community problem that if we don't get our arms around, it's going to really, really kill our not just our friends and our neighbors in the state, but it's going to whack away at so many other things that are important to us in our state. So we're working on that, and we'll continue to. So not to leave you on a down note, and I don't mean to. It's just a big problem, and I know we understand it as chamber members and as business folks. But it's something that together I think we can make a big difference in, and we'll do our best, and I know our communities will do their best as well. So it's going to be a good year. I really do believe it will. We've got a lot of things going on beyond that. You'll hear from our other colleagues on some of those things, but I have a great feeling that, there's some that always say at the first, oh, you guys are going to go to special session because you don't, you and the Senate aren't agreeing on things. You've heard that probably nearly every year you've been there, Bill, and we hear.
It's true.
Last year was not the norm. If they would just agree with us, we'd be so much better off. But seriously, there's a long way to the finish line. We've got a lot to do. We've got a lot of work to do. But there's a great chance, I believe, that, as they say in the process up there, we'll land the airplane on time and on schedule and get out of there and get back to what we appreciate, and that's our communities, our constituents, and our families and businesses. So I think it's going to be a good year. There's a lot going on, and both chambers are tackling a lot of issues, and the governor's got his agenda that's coming out. As an example, and I'll shut up, his tax package that I will be working on in the House was a little over $600 million. And he said, well, what do you think about that? And I said, that's great. It's ambitious. I share your desire to lower taxes for Floridians. If we can figure out how to find $600 million, I'd love to be part of that. I'm not sure that we will, but we're going to do something and hopefully continue to work hard together. So thank you for having us today, and I look forward to questions and answers later, but appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to all of you for coming today. Half the battle is just showing up and getting involved and participating in the process, and for all of you guys to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, it shows how much you guys care about our community. I'm grateful to be here. This is my first politics and pancake event in Manatee County. I'm a lot of you know me. I've been the chairman of the Republican Party of Sarasota for the last 8 years, but this past November, I won a district that. Who here lives east of 301 in Manatee County? Okay, there's a good chance that all of you are in my State House district and the rest are in Jim's. But it's just a real pleasure to be here, and I'll start off by saying, when it's like a freshman getting off walking into high school the first time. You go into those doors. And I will tell you, it's been an absolute eye-opening experience to go to Tallahassee to start this process off as a newbie, not knowing completely what to expect. But I will tell you that Manatee County is extremely well served because we have the fact that we have two senior members of leadership, Senator Galvano and Jim Boyd. I will tell you that of all the counties in the entire state, Manatee County is probably best position to do the best this legislative session and the next. And so, that's right, you get applause for these two great guys. And I know Representative Newton and Representative Gonzalez and I are going to do everything we can to help them be successful. I have a couple of important bills. Of course, I campaigned as a conservative, so my first two bills that I filed are more conservative in nature than most. You may have seen in the paper my first bill. I believe life is a gift from God, and As a result, I've filed a what you've been reading a lot in the paper, and if you go on news sites, 13 states have introduced this legislation. It's the Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, which essentially says after 20 weeks, 5 months, we're going to try to essentially bans elective abortions from that period. And medical science has proven that the baby can feel pain after 20 weeks. And so that's the intent of this bill. And it's a, just so you know, current law right now is viability. And that could be interpreted anywhere between 22 and 24 weeks. So this extends the ban by 2 weeks. My second bill, some of you may also know that I was Donald Trump's Florida chairman here. And as a result, being America first and Floridian first, we're the only state in the Southeast United States not to have E-Verify as a mandatory requirement for employers. And so I filed that bill, and I hope to get lots of support for both of those. But some of my other bills that are kind of exciting, that are more business friendly, when I ran, I basically said I want to do all I can to make sure that our area remains the best possible place to live and work. I'm a big believer in Governor Rick Scott's focus on jobs and the economy. I'm running Governor Scott's bill this year to reform Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida. And some of the policies that they've already put into place, what we're going to do is we're going to try to put them in statute to essentially say that transparency is the best way to do it. I don't think we need to abandon these programs. And as members, I know there's some members of the EDC here, and but I think that give the governor the ability to target specific industries, bring more jobs to our area, I think it's an important thing. Another issue that's important to me is if you followed my campaign, and it seems like half of you guys did, in the last 2 weeks of my campaign, I was hammered with about 12 negative mailers. And to this day, I still don't know who sent those mailers out. It's really interesting. You know, they probably spent over $100,000. So you think about that in your mind. If you had an extra $100,000, what would you want to do with it? And to think about somebody using it to attack me when I don't know, it goes back to the Enterprise Florida thing, Visit Florida. Transparency is always the best way. And so what I've done is I have a bill in drafting that's I'm about to file that helps open up the process to make sure that we could trace where money is coming from and where it's going to. Because certainly, just so you know, that people don't always know. If you want a cup of coffee here, if you want a Starbucks, right, from a lobbyist, I'm not allowed to take a cup of coffee. There's so many rules. Actually, when you get bussed up there the first time, you get off the bus and you go to these meetings, and for 2 weeks they essentially say you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Watch out for this. But basically, the thing is, they want to make sure that everything is on the up and up, and that everything is 100% transparent. But when I can't take a cup of coffee from somebody, but somebody could spend over $100,000 to attack somebody, and you never know who it's from, to me, there's a problem with the overall issue. So I think a campaign finance bill is needed. I'm also running a bill. I'm a CPA down in Sarasota, and I'm running a bill for for the CPAs in Florida, just a technical bill. And I'm running a bill for USF Sarasota to make their paint program permanent. And the last big bill I'm doing, which is if you have property owners here, I'm going to be rolling out the next week or two, is a property owner's Bill of Rights. And not everybody is as fortunate as the residents here in Manatee and Sarasota with great elected leaders, and sometimes there's some runaway property appraisers. And so what this bill is intended to do is give property owners more rights and more options in the system. And I am filing a couple of appropriations bills. Does everybody understand how the new appropriations projects are coming up? No. So basically, just so you know, so before you didn't have to have you didn't have to introduce it in the bill in the final 2 weeks if you had strong leaders, like Manatee's been fortunate to have over the last couple of years. You could be able to put it in the budget, and all of a sudden, we get the funding. Well, now, House rules are requiring us to file every single appropriations bill independently at the start of session. And if your bill's not filed, if your appropriations bill is not in filing by the time session starts, it has zero chance of passing. and which is good because it goes back to the whole idea of being transparent, making sure people are accountable for the money that they're putting in. And so I'm putting in appropriation projects for several Manatee County, one for Manatee County government. I'm going to file another appropriations bill for Legacy Trail expansion, if you're familiar with that, in Sarasota. And I'm filing another one for the Benderson Park group out there with the efforts to promote amateur tourism. I was fortunate enough to serve on the Florida State Board of Trustees over the last 6 years, as well as the Florida Sports Foundation, which in both of those, you deal with a lot of amateur sports. And there's no bigger bang for the buck that we get as a community than investing in amateur sports facilities and programs. And so I'm proud to put my name on that. And I look forward to hearing from you in Q&A, and my office is always open, and I'm more than willing to meet anybody at any time to help our community be the best possible place to live and work. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm excited. It's been a smooth transition for me after serving 8 years on the St. Petersburg City Council and serving on the Tampa Bay Regional Planning and the Municipal Planning Organization and PPC and PSTA and a whole bunch of other acronyms you probably don't recognize. I'm excited about the possibilities and the opportunities. I'm happy and elated to be invited by the chamber here. We in St. Petersburg work diligently with our St. Petersburg Chamber. In fact, we have a partnership called the Greenhouse where we partner with them to develop small businesses and also encourage a lot of entrepreneurships, and we fund that also, and we travel throughout the state looking for opportunities. So I'm on the cusp of seeing it from a state level, as it is done over 67 counties, which we'll be in charge of. As Joe alluded to, we did spend 2 weeks in, I call it Corcoran's University, getting training. While the rules may be kind of confusing to some, they're the only rules I know, just arriving in the Capitol. I serve on the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee. I serve on K through 12 appropriations. And right now, that's a little disturbing to me. I know the Florida Chamber is real, and really insistent on having a quality, educated workforce to be able to attract big businesses to our areas. And with 0 to 5 being the most critical time in development of a child's mind, it's just alarming to me that right now in K through 12 approach on the House side, they're looking at $47 million in cuts to school readiness, which is kind of crazy if you ask me. Because if you don't make the investment on the front end, you're going to have to invest more in criminal justice and keeping us safe. We're locking them up on the back end. A bill that I'm putting through is to aid college graduates, teachers that are working in the area of STEMs to try to keep our good talent locally so they can be able to train more of our young kids in those STEM qualifications so they can get good employment and be self-sufficient so they won't need a lot of these programs you hear about them cutting. Myself, I come from a lot of government programs being raised by a single divorced mom. And she did the best that she could doing days work, cooking and cleaning for other people while their kids went out and worked and caring for their family members and loved ones. But I took full advantage of all those opportunities, and it helped me realize my full potential. So now my kids can get those programs. So it does work. A lot of my colleagues have problems wondering about the hand up. A lot of people need that, and it helps a lot for invested purposes. As to infrastructure, I serve on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. I think that a lot of your priorities, especially the ones about bridges and building up our infrastructure, is going to be crucial. They also create jobs, good paying jobs, so people be able to afford the things that they can and take care of their own families. As you know, I'm probably the only Democrat up here. But it doesn't matter because a lot of the things that we're looking at goes across the aisles. I'm also sponsoring the bill, working on the bill with Senator Brand that's on the other side with affordable housing as it pertains to affordable housing, affordable quality housing. So we're going to try to get into that. As you know, you heard a little bit about the environment. I'm putting forth a bill also to require local municipalities who govern waste treatment facilities if they're going to take them offline to only be able to allow to do so when they got excess capacity online for a period of 2 years. If you saw the disaster that happened over in St. Pete, over 200 million gallons of sewage dumped into our environment, that's not a good thing. So, I'm excited about the opportunity. I look forward to working with everybody in here. I lobbied with the Tampa Bay Chambers when they came up to Tallahassee. And like I say, it's not really new to me because every year on city council, I travel to Tallahassee to lobby for juvenile justice. So I was on that side, and I'm on this side. So I'm kind of well versed in it, and I can't wait to get started. But I thank you guys for the invitation and the opportunity. I look forward to working with all you guys as a subject matter experts on things that are important in this county, because I represent 4. I'm part of the Pinellas delegation, the Hillsborough delegation, the Manatee delegation, and the Sarasota delegation. Thank you.
Well, finally, for having the smallest voice, I'm up. My name's Julio Gonzalez. I traveled way from down south over in Venice to be with you all this morning. And I just want you to know that I firmly believe in efficiency in government. And in order to promote that this morning, I took a tour of the facilities. Some of you may think I was aimlessly walking through the facilities, but actually I was actually taking a self-guided tour that was ended when one of the teachers very nicely instructed me how to get to this room. But from this tour, I got to take 2 conclusions. The first is I'm so impressed with the facilities here at IMG and the great work that they did. I did not realize the smallness of some of the students that come to IMG, and that's one of the things that I learned this morning. The other one is as I'm walking in here and now I'm looking at this view, for the life of me, I don't understand why anybody would want to live in Florida, so here we are. Look, this is going to be another exciting year. As many of you may know, I've never served in public office until last session, and I was immediately marveled. I was marveled by the blessing that it was to serve in politics. The ability to recognize good ideas and to kind of stamp out bad ideas and to promote those things that I believe in, and I think the people in my community believe in, is truly, truly a blessing beyond words. And this year is looking like it's not going to be any exception to that rule. I must agree with the other speakers, specifically with Representative Boyd, when he says that the workman's comp is a major concern of the House of Representatives. And I fully expect that we will take a lot of time trying to still figure out that problem, which was essentially created by a ruling from the Florida Supreme Court. The other one is the death penalty cases, what to do about our death penalty statutes. Another problem that was created by a non-unanimous opinion from the Supreme Court is going to take a lot of time to figure out and essentially cause the legislature to craft a law that pleases the Supreme Court, which brings me to my first bill. But before I go, I'll just mention one into my bills is the last issue is that this is going to be a budgetarily trying year for the legislature. We're going to have to find. We're predicted to have some shortfalls, if not break even to where we were before. So if we want to handle new projects, if we want to take on new expenses, then we have to find out where we're going to cut from what we did last year. Some of those cuts are going to be easy. Some of those cuts are going to be very difficult. And so once again, I'm very blessed to be in a situation where I can have a say on that. My first bill, and the one that's taken the most of my time, is as I reviewed these decisions both at the state court and at the state Supreme Court levels, I realized that there's a gap in our check and balances. And that gap is in the communication between the Supreme Court and the legislature. When the legislature passes a law that is ostensibly unconstitutional, who checks that? The Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court says that a law is unconstitutional, and perhaps they're speaking against the will of the interpretation of the people, or perhaps they're being excessively activist, who checks the Supreme Court? Nobody. The only chance you have is another Supreme Court reversing itself, or an amendment, whereas for most of the issues, an amendment process is impossible to undertake for something as a question over whether our decisions on death penalty cases should be 10-2 versus 12 to nothing. So I'm taking a lot of time with that. It's a great discussion, particularly in the upstart or run-up to the Constitutional Revision Commission's work next year, and it's brought up a lot of discussion about the role and the proper relationship between the legislature and the courts, and it's one that I continue to look forward to have. More specifically, my greatest priority this year, and the one that I'm working actively with Senator Stubbe from a budgeting standpoint, is River Road. River Road, River Road, River Road. We have to, in South Sarasota County and Sarasota County proper, we have to find a way to be able to finish the improvements on River Road, and it is a state issue of an issue of state importance because, among other reasons, River Road is a hurricane evacuation route. And so for no other reason than we really shouldn't be evacuating out a river when we're trying to evacuate people from South County, we really need to make progress on finishing the constructions and improvements on River Road. I am very happy to say, and some of you have already talked to me about it this morning, that I have worked out a compromise in the civil citation bill with this bill's sponsors so that our teen court program in Sarasota County, which is one of the models for the state and even the country, can have even footing with the civil citation efforts in the state. So this was a very important aspect to our priorities here in Sarasota County, and I think we're finally at a point where we can move forward with that. There's still an issue about the mandate of when and where law enforcement officers must issue civil citations or refer to teen court, and that issue is going to take a brunt of my effort moving forward. My latest bill that I filed it just last week, is a anti-terrorism bill. It is a bill that will allow the state of Florida to essentially have in the statutes the same authorities that the federal government has in investigating acts of terrorism and in prosecuting acts of terrorism. It defines what a terrorist act is, which I was surprised to find is not really in our statutes right now, and it also provides material support for FDLE in investigating cases. I'm told by FDLE, and we'll see how it plays out when we get to committees, that if those things had been in place, they would have been able to more zealously and more thoroughly investigate the actors in the Pulse nightclub shooting, independent of what may have been available to the federal government. So right now, essentially, the state is at the whim of the federal government and whether they can investigate a case of terrorism, and this bill would allow them to act independently. The rest, there are some bills that we're evaluating, but I'll tell you essentially what my priorities are on a substantive side of the House. I want to address the issue of homelessness. I want to address the issues of drug abuse and mental health. As a matter of fact, we were blessed to be in a meeting that took place here in Manatee County, hosted by Manatee Memorial Hospital, and essentially allowed Representative Buchanan, Marco Rubio, myself, and Senator Stubbe to really learn a lot about this issue. From this came a lot of the ideas that Chairman Boyd is promoting. From this came a concern about the jurisdiction abilities of these individuals who have been resuscitated and now appear to be in the emergency room, but they have regained their capacity because they have been reversed. The impression that I'm getting from my colleagues and some of the comments that were made at that meeting was that we don't have jurisdiction over those individuals because they now have capacity. I crafted a bill to correct that, and when we got to Tallahassee and started studying further, found that the statute already has that provision in place. So that's leading to an educational campaign that I'm going to try to get to my medical colleagues, and then of course the next hurdle, which is once you have jurisdiction, then the problem becomes, well, maybe we don't have the number of beds and the number of treatment centers. So that'll be my next my next goal and my next challenge. And finally, I'll just mention one other thing because I'm in Children's, Families, and Seniors Committee. I'm vice chair of that committee. We've already spent a number of hours trying to figure out the solution for safe houses. And one of the problems with our safe houses is that they're underregulated. The regulatory capacity of the state is severely hampered by the federal government. So there's a lot of things that we could do that we cannot do because the federal government prohibits it from happening. And finally, what we're seeing is this cycle where people are going to safe houses, then the same people that are kind of connected with the safe houses are kind of maybe tempting them after they get out. And then they end up back in the safe houses again with this vicious cycle that, yes, is nefarious and is evil. And I'm hoping to find a way to figure out a way to break that cycle. So with that, those are my just off-the-cuff beginning legislative priorities and legislative efforts. I can tell you, again, as he always is, Chairman Boyd is always right. Yes. I learned that while I was deputy whip. He made me do push-ups and made me run and stuff. But anyway, I always learned that it is, at this point, it is very early in the process, and what's important to us now, just like I thought I was going to write a Marchman revision bill, may not be the same things that bubble up as being issues of most importance at the finish line. So with that, I look forward to your questions, and more importantly, I look forward to giving every effort I got to representing all of you and all of us Floridians properly. God bless.
Okay, now we'll do our famous Q&A. So for the audience watching at home, the question is, in the Jeopardy format, is what is the answer to standardized testing?
No, okay, that wasn't the question. So, and I agree, my mom's very popular, but wait till you meet my daughter. I think more lately I'm known as Jacqueline's father than Bill. The reality is where'd Missy go? We understand where you're coming from, and we've actually taken steps over the last 4 years to reevaluate how we are evaluating, and that's when we changed the test a couple years ago. It's still something that is continues to be discussed because we want to have that balance. But at the end of the day, too, we still have to measure. I mean, we realize, and you all realize as business people, you're going to take many, many tests in your life. You're going to take tests to get a driver's license. You're going to take tests to get a professional license. You're going to take a test in order to get promoted. And so it's really part of the fabric of life. We have to have that type of evaluation because if you don't measure, you don't care. But at the same time, we understand there are some pitfalls and there are challenges, and so we're working on that balance. So to answer your question, yes, that's still in play. Best and brightest, I think that's still a House priority. It's something that we will continue to look at and work with the House on.
Thank you for your question. To the standardized testing, I think it should just be a tool. You know, myself, I was traveling back and forth to Tallahassee and had the courtesy of meeting some of our esteemed and esteemed Florida Highway Patrols. Got a ticket, you know, and I chose to take the driving test. I mean, take the driving school portion of it. Here I am, 53 years old, went through all high school and some college, and 18 years in corporate America with Xerox, over 8 years on governance in the city of St. Pete, and this little test, you know, I was up to 3 in the morning going over this little test when I went through it, knowing what I know because I've been driving for a long time, but the anxiety was you couldn't believe, you know? And I scored a 97. I got 3 wrong out of, 47 questions. So I did pass, but I think it should be used as a tool, not more as a way to, I guess, kind of score these kids because they learn on a different level. You know, you had one family brought lawsuits toward the state about their kids knowing what they know, but they did not want them to take a standardized test. And I think if they can demonstrate what they learned, then that's all we're trying to do. As to the best and brightest, they're having discussions about that too in this cut process in K through 12. It came up, and a lot of people are trying to talk about doing something with that. In fact, when we go back, I think on the 9th, we got to give our quote unquote budgets or our suggested cuts to our chair, Mr. Gomez. So we got some homework to do there, but they're still working on that. So the senator's right, so it's not done, but it was a good question. Thank you.
Okay. The question is about transportation infrastructure. Anybody want to comment on that? Yeah. All right, Representative Gonzalez.
Thank you. I'll tell you, I'll take the opportunity to address your question, not because of River Road or not because of any one particular project, but I want to share with you my experience on how we've made significant progress towards solving this problem. And the reason why I want to do that specifically is because it's been all about the county commission and the communication between the county commission and the state representatives, and in this case, the senator as well. So one of the things, first of all, philosophically, having gone to many of the conferences of Department of Transportation, one of the solutions that they're thinking would be great to solve our gridlock is to offer parallelism, which is, you have this I-75, and apparently in older philosophies, everything's dependent on getting people to I-75, then we can move in quickly. Well, now I-75 can get gridlocked. And so the answer to that, to the science and the technologies is suggesting, is to offer parallel roads like Cattleman Road and things like that. So the state is interested in promoting that kind of idea. The other one, in order to diminish high-speed head-on collisions and T-bone collisions, is the circular, the runarounds or the roundabouts, depending on how you view them. But actually, I must say, having looked at them with some skepticism, the high velocity and serious accident rate has diminished markedly. And the other issue that I must admit is when you go to Europe and you see the various designs they have for the different needs, you can see how roundabouts can work well and smoothly. So I think philosophically that's probably where they're going to address many of these issues. Now, logistically, the only reason why we're making all this progress is because Senator Stubbe and I have personally, and to tell you that we've communicated with the county at least two to three times a week since we got reelected is probably no exaggeration. 2 to 3 times a week, we're discussing the issue with our county commissioners. We are learning of administrative roadblocks that everybody agrees, but there's an administrative roadblock that we need to clear. We talked to the county commission, we talked to the executive director of the county commissioner of the county commission, and then all of a sudden the roadblocks are cleared administratively through procedural processes. So I think, first of all, just be aware philosophically this is what is being thought of to address many of these problems. But logistically, I think it really takes a concerted team effort between the county, the city, and your elected officials to deliver that message to Tallahassee. Now, that being said, I haven't succeeded yet, so I'll have to follow up with you on that later. Thank you.
Thank you.
To your question about collaboration and being together, I toured when I was on Tampa Regional. PSCA. We toured Miami. Had a tour with Congressman Micah, and we saw 3 $1 billion projects coming out of the ground: the tunnel, the Sunrail, and also the intermodal facility. And Mr. LaCanto out of Tampa International Airport was in that tour with us, and you can see the amount of development and stuff that they're doing over in Tampa. To your question, what it's going to take? It's going to take more advocacy by the chamber. I don't know if you have it in your chamber here, because this is my first visit with this chamber, but in St. Pete Chamber, they have a policy committee that they bring the elected officials in, all of them, and they talk frequently. And it's going to take advocacy from you and also getting them into the room. What I saw that was so impressive to me down in Miami, and the first time I ever saw it, Congressman Micah had everybody around the table. It was a big old room full of environmentalists, the chamber, the zoning people. Everybody that had a stake in something going on was right there. And what I saw from that, because they all were going all in the same way, they didn't have 10 number ones, they were getting the money. As to your question about fair share and federal money. He was good at that. And I never saw that. It was always, you know, I want to go first, I want this, I want that. And what we have to do as a region is to get together and see what's important, help us get that done, like a river road, help us get the bridge done. I commute over from South St. Pete, over the Skyway Bridge. And if it's another way to get down here, I don't know it. I know Business 41, I know 41, and I know 75. And every one of them were jammed up. I don't care what time you get out there, they're gridlocked. And the bridge itself, that's a huge problem because it's a bottleneck. Once you get over it, it opens up. But going over it, everybody's trying to come in, cut in. They already created 3 lanes. If you go out there and look, they created a lane already, all into the environment. So it's important that we all come together and like you heard the thing about different policies and things they have in place. I believe in home rule, I do. And like I said, being 8 years on local government, that was important. But as I get up on the state level, the way you're going to be able to get things done is to combine your resources and focus on getting it done. Not partial funding, but done. And to do that, you got to have everybody go in the same direction and have one number one. So that's my spill.
Thank you. Okay, this is going to have to be the last question. I want to encourage everyone who's still in the question line to try to follow up individually with the representatives and senators after we break. So, Charlie, no pressure. Thank you, Charlie. So I guess the question is, anybody want to comment on beach renourishment programs or FEMA? Okay. Well, with that, I want to take a special thank you to Charter Communications for their continued support. Of course, our legislative delegation here today for being here bright and early on a Monday. Of course, our friends at METV for coming in and broadcasting this. And last but not least, our hosts here at IMG Academy. Thank you all for a great breakfast, and thank you all for coming.